Welcome to the show about all things making music, from the creative process and workflow to gear and recording techniques. I'm your host, Brian Funk, musician, producer, Ableton certified trainer, and author of the 5-Minute Music Producer. Let's learn to become better music makers. Welcome to the Music Production Podcast. Today I'm speaking with Aqeel Aadam, founder of Aqeel Aadam Sound plugins, and Tyler Gilmore, aka Blankfor.ms. Aqeel and Tyler have just released Outgrowth, a sample-based plugin and iOS app. Outgrowth allows you to manipulate samples and reimagine them in playful and unique ways. Aqeel and Tyler spoke to me about their collaboration on the new plugin and how they came to work together. We covered the creative process of developing plugins and some of the artistic choices and sacrifices made to keep the device both inspiring and deep without being overwhelming. Tyler discusses the inspiration and creation process of his new album as Blankfor.ms called After the Town Was Swept Away. Great album. Please welcome Aqeel Aadam and Tyler Gilmore to the Music Production Podcast. Aqeel, Tyler, welcome to the Music Production Podcast. Great to have you guys.
Great to be here.
Yeah, thrilled to be here.
So Aqeel, I'll let you maybe just say hello quick so people can identify your voice, and then Tyler, I'll have you do the same.
Yeah. Hey, so I'm Aqeel. I am the solo dev behind Aqeel Aadam Sound, and I guess the artist known as Aqeel Aadam.
Yeah, nice. And I'm Tyler, known as Blankfor.ms. I make a lot of music, make sample packs, and then obviously Aqeel and I collaborated on the device we're going to talk about here.
Yeah, very nice. Outgrowth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Aqeel, you were on not that long ago. You might be one of the fastest turnaround times on the podcast, having somebody come back so soon. But we had a great conversation talking about, making music, being kind of like natural, organic, and human. And it's something you have always brought to your plugins that I've really grown to enjoy. And I've found too, Tyler, through Blankfor.ms, your music has a lot of that too. Really lively, interesting stuff that's always changing. And once I started listening to some more of your stuff, and I think I've seen some of your videos in the past too, playing around with gear on a table. And it just seemed like the perfect collaboration, a very similar kind of mindsets and, musical tastes that you both have. How did you guys start working together? Does this go long back or new kind of thing?
Yeah, trying to think when we first met. It was
Yeah.
probably 7 or 8 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And Aqeel, you can correct me if you remember this differently. We were both kind of making similar sorts of music and sort of like in a community of people on Instagram who were posting videos and talking about gear and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like maybe we had chatted a bit, but Aqeel, you reached out and were like, you live in New York, I live in New York. Do you want to just get together sometime and talk about stuff? And so we did that and just kind of remained friends, and would chat pretty regularly for a number of years. And and then when Aqeel started doing all this, incredible device building, I think I was the one that reached out and was like, hey, would you like to collaborate on something? I feel like we could put our heads together, and yeah, I'd love to work on something. And I think that's kind of where it started.
I think so, yeah. I guess I used to live in New York, so we had a nice little community kind of pre-COVID. I feel like it was cooler to just reach out to people and meet up. So yeah, I think that's how we first linked up. And then I think Tyler was one of the first people that I had talked to when I kind of decided I wanted to do quote unquote music as a career. Because I knew that's what he was doing. He was making it work. So he was one of the first people I hit up to just kind of see like, how do you music? How do you make money off of music and all of that? And I think Tyler was one of the first people who encouraged me to kind of think about building plugins, which wasn't something that was really on my radar before, but because I have a computer science background, I think maybe that was more obvious to other people than it was to me. But um, so I want to give him credit for kind of the seeds of Aqeel Aadam Sound, and then yeah, we just um, kind of kept in touch throughout that process, and I think pretty early on, it with my plugin stuff, I think we started working on Outgrowth. I think we started working on it between my first and second plugin, which is probably a little ambitious on my part, but now it's my fourth. So just to give you a picture of how long it's taken and kind of how long it's been, baking in the oven.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like that you guys have that sort of that background too. Like that, Tyler, you kind of gave them the encouragement, and now here you are. It seems to make perfect sense to come together and extend the collaborations and putting the minds together into this part of it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's I don't know, worth noting that what Aqeel, before he started doing the plugins, the music he was making was very modular synth oriented. And there's something about the mindset with modular synths that made it especially obvious that, like, oh, if you know how to build software and you're already thinking this way, like that's not going to be that hard, and you're probably going to bring some really interesting ideas to it, which he has.
Yeah, I mean, working with modular synths, it's like every time you sit down to do something, you're almost like making a new custom instrument or a new custom effect. So yeah, I definitely think there's some, there's a lot of validity to that, because for me, like kind of the genesis of a lot of my ideas are basically things that I do in modular all the time, and just trying to think about a way to make that a little bit more accessible or less of a pain in the ass.
Sorry, I'm going to fix my
Like,
lighting.
sure. Yeah, you can recall things in the digital world, I guess, in a way,
Mm-hmm.
where the modular stuff. Is it like the piecing things together one little aspect at a time? That kind of mindset? Is that what you guys referring to?
I think so. It's both that and like, I mean, I think you're kind of thinking about what kind of control you want. And this might apply more for Tyler because you do more like live oriented modular stuff. And for me, I'm doing more like studio oriented, like kind of patch from scratch type stuff. Um, but I think you're always thinking about like kind of what are the controls that I want to be available? What are the parameters that I want to be able to just, twist and tweak? And, what kind of things am I going to surrender to the device to do whatever it's going to do? So I think that kind of naturally leads itself into the world of like, instrument design or UX and all of that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And also, like, modular, there's a way in which, like, the borders between things, as they tend to exist outside of modular, are much more porous. Like, audio can be control, control can be audio. Things that do one can oftentimes do another. And oftentimes, like, it's easier when you're working in the modular world to see the ways that, like, a delay is a reverb, is a delay is built from a reverb, and going, you have more ways to, like, go back and forth between those things. So you're kind of thinking in a less segmented way than one might with, like, pedals or software or whatever. So being able to bring that into building software is sort of like an interesting starting point.
Hmm. That's cool. I haven't gone modular, mostly because I'm afraid of the slippery slope and the um, I don't know what it'll do to me, and probably especially my bank account.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there has been a lot of that sort of integration into like Ableton Live, which is what I'm using primarily, with
Hmm.
the envelope followers and the way things, like you said, audio can be the thing that changes. And that's a very new concept in my world, um, that has opened up so much. I think maybe when I was working back younger with like my 4 track and on tapes, and I still have a reel to reel here that I use, there is an audio interaction that happens. Sometimes track one, if that kick drum's just too loud, it interferes with track two. It kind of like
Sure.
elbows it or something, like
Yeah.
it move over a little. And I always kind of enjoyed that. And when I got in the computer, it was like, it's all so separate.
Mm.
It's like these
Hmm.
separate things on a separate conveyor belts. But now being able to use things like envelope followers, side chaining, and just clever routing, you can recreate that and make your music feel like it's in the same place and it's maneuvering around each other.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah,
Much
I
more
totally
common, I
agree. I love
guess,
that.
for, yeah. Whereas,
Yeah, no, I was just saying that I totally agree. I love the sorts of interactions that you can start to build with things like that.
hmm. Yeah, and I guess that's a lot of that's going on in the plugin too, right?
Mhm.
Feeling that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of, I think we had this like North Star with the plugin where we wanted it to be easy to use, but we didn't want it to be simple. So lots of things interact with each other. And, that's always kind of a touchy subject, I think, when you're designing some sort of instrument or some sort of effect where um, you don't want too many relationships between things. You don't want it to be completely obtuse, but I think we spent a lot of time really dialing in that experience. Um, and at least based on the feedback we've gotten so far, I think people have really enjoyed that kind of aspect of it where things are interacting in a way that makes sense and there's kind of like a thematic through line through everything. Um, and it's not in a way where that doesn't feel unnatural or doesn't feel confusing, which I think was really our goal with all of this.
Yeah, and I think, we were trying to make it so that a single sample, like whatever your source is, your source sample, you can drop it in and feel like it can go in a million directions, like pretty easily. And so like sticking with the like one thing becoming another theme, like one of the ones that's turned out to be, I think, maybe the most popular and definitely quite successful, in my experience with it, is called Radiate, which is where it takes a sample and sort of analyzes for all the dominant frequencies, attaches sine waves to each of those frequencies, and then allows you to kind of build an additive synthesizer out of those sine waves. So it sounds related to the sample, but it's clearly something new. Um, and that's just, I don't know, that sort of thing has been a lot of fun, finding ways to like build new stuff out of an existing sample.
Yeah, especially since like we're still in a DAW. So like one of the things I really like doing is like resampling something that I already had like going on. So you could like take some sound, throw it into Outgrowth, like resynthesize it, and then you've got like the original and that kind of going in parallel. Um, Also, sorry, should we back up and like give the elevator pitch of Outgrowth maybe?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess if you're listening to this and you don't already know, so we put together this plugin called Outgrowth, which is basically like a sample-based instrument. The idea is that we can turn kind of one or more samples into like a performable instrument. That was definitely like kind of the initial thesis of the idea. And we have a bunch of like sustaining algorithms, a bunch of synthesizing algorithms, ways that you can kind of like morph that sample beyond the original source material. And then all of that goes into kind of like a bunch of performance effects, some like synthesizer style signal chain with like a filter and volume and whatnot, and then some global effects. And all of that is under the control of a really robust modulation matrix that lets you kind of turn it into like the generative or performative instrument that you really want to see.
I agree that it does go in a million different directions. Um, my experience with it so far has been putting samples in, recordings, sometimes guitar or piano or voice or even just anything really,
Yeah.
just something from the browser, and feeling like I don't know where I'm going to wind up, but something's going to happen. And it's been a pretty interesting springboard to the next thing. And so you've got the different, I guess, would you call them algorithms? Like you said, Radiate and um, blanking on
Yeah,
some of the
that's what we
names.
called them while we were developing it, but we went with engines instead.
Engines.
But
Okay.
that's, yeah, you nailed it. We
Yes.
called them algorithms along the way.
Okay. Like, I don't know what they're doing really when I'm playing with them. And
Hmm.
the fun thing about it is I don't really need to know
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
I've been caught up in the sound and the playing of it
Hmm.
before the kind of like, wait, how does this thing work
Yeah.
feeling would take over and
Mhm.
get confused and then have to, read the manual. I haven't even gotten that far where I felt like I needed to know. And
Yeah.
I really like that about certain devices, or even when I'm designing Ableton Live racks and I'm naming my macros, instead of filter, frequency, and delay, to just name it something abstract
Hmm.
Mm.
where
Mhm.
I can kind of forget the technical stuff that's happening and let the imagination happen. Like, oh, this feels like a cloud that's floating in the reflection of a river. And just that's all I need to know. So
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
it does a nice job of that. And of course, the graphics you have, I think, lend to the imagination, the animations in there
Yeah.
lend to
Thank you.
that feel, which is a thing you like to do, Akeel.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I think one of the things, kind of one of the North Stars that we were trying to follow, um, and I think, Tyler, I don't want to speak for you, but obviously, like, you're a pianist, have a jazz background, but I think, like, in the current kind of like this electronic music slash in the box world, there isn't so much like playing anymore. There's a lot of like piano roll, there's a lot of MIDI clips, but it's kind of rare to, just sit down at the keyboard and kind of see what happens. And before I got into production and Ableton and everything, like, I used to really like that experience, like with a guitar, and I kind of lost that, I feel like. So I definitely felt like I was kind of guilty of, not playing enough. And I think that's what we really wanted to kind of cultivate, like the experience of just like sitting down and seeing what happens. And I've had the experience of like playing this thing for like hours at a time, and I'm like not getting any bug fixes done because I'm just like having fun and making presets or whatever. Um,
Mm.
so I think it's really cool to hear that you had that experience as well, because I think we kind of wanted to help cultivate like just helping people have fun with and feeling confident and happy to sit there and noodle on the keyboard.
Yeah, the playing aspect of music, playing music, right?
Right. Yeah.
That's what it is. And yeah, it can be technical on the computer, dragging, dropping, clicking, pointing, Um, obviously has its purpose and can be fun in its own way, but yeah, I enjoy that. I don't get as lost in that as I do playing on a keyboard push or guitar or something like that.
Hmm.
And I feel like that is a little bit of a trend that's starting to emerge a little, that idea of playing again, getting lost in that. Some of the new devices that are coming out even and get
Yeah.
involved in that aspect of it.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, I think that's a big part of what why a lot of physical instruments have like I don't know, a lot of interesting innovations with physical instruments are happening now with like modular, obviously we've already talked
Mm.
about, but even just like interesting tabletop synthesizers that aren't keyboard based, but are just, all sorts of innovative different forms of that. Um, are just growing and growing, and it's in the context of these lives we lead where we're constantly looking at screens and typing on a keyboard or pressing on a screen, and so the sort of just the experiential novelty of making music as at a computer is actually like not novel at all. Most of us have been in a computer all day, so it's so nice
Mm.
to get away from that for a bit. And I think that's part of why obviously Outgrowth is on a computer, but we were trying to make it bring a little of that like um physical hardware magic to it where you can kind of like turn some things quickly and easily and play and get to things get to interesting things pretty quick without, yeah, without a lot of noodling on the computer.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's a fun point because when I first started using DAWs and especially live, Ableton Live, because that to me was the first time I felt like it was more of an instrument and I was making music with it instead of against it. But there was
Sure.
a lot of fun in, so cool, I can do this on the computer
Hmm.
for quite a few years. And I
Hmm.
think, yeah, now that's worn off a little bit because now I do everything on the computer. It is nice to kind of have something that, even if it is within the computer, that feels more play like, a little more of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
element
absolutely.
to it.
Yeah, like just sitting there and kind of looking at your hands as opposed to looking at the screen is is fun.
Mhm. You know, I just read an article by Bobby Owsinski. He's got a great blog, a great podcast too, all about music production, music making. And his post was about plugins.
Hmm.
And I think every Monday he does a new plugin post. But this one was about plugins not really exciting him anymore, being kind
Hmm.
of boring. Like it's yet another recreation of something that already exists, or yet another EQ or compressor. Like how many do I need? I can't get that excited about a new compressor when I have 30 in my computer. Um, and I think because of course, I'm getting ready for talking to you guys. Like this popped up in my mind. Like this is a good example. The stuff you guys are working on, Outgrowth, is a really nice example of something that I don't have anything quite like this. It's not like it's not even like it's a granular synthesizer.
Hmm.
It's a bit outside, and I guess I'm just wondering really if you guys are thinking in that way. Is there some kind of boredom with the constant new EQ? Like, okay, like this one
Yeah.
now has 12 curves I can play with instead of 8. And
Yeah, I can speak to that, I guess, because I'm kind of immersed in that world a little bit. Um, I will say, I think maybe when I started this whole plugin brand, which was about 2 or 3 years ago now, I kind of felt similarly to what this author is describing. And it was kind of why, for when Tyler said I should make plugins, I was kind of like, yeah, whatever, to some extent, because in my
mm,
mind, like plugins are kind of something utilitarian and boring. Um, but I think now I look around and I do feel like there's a lot of really interesting devices that I feel like are popping up really quickly. Um, I don't want to name names or anything, but I feel like when I have an idea, there's a short list of brands that I check to make sure they haven't already done it. Because I think there's a lot of really creative people doing this right now, and it does seem like I kind of consider myself, I guess, part of a cohort of people that I feel like are all moving in the same direction to some extent. Like this idea of making plugins more fun. Because I agree. I think we all have, utilitarian devices that we're already happy with. Like, am I ever going to buy another EQ again because I have Pro Q? Like, probably not. And do I need the essentials because I have the Sound Toys bundle? Like, probably not. But I do see a lot of stuff like come up in my feed where I'm like, that is genuinely very cool, and I'm a little jealous I didn't think of that.
is there any kind
Yeah.
of interaction with other companies? Is the plugin maker community?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think there are forums and communities. I consider myself fortunate to just like be on the radar of a couple folks that, I look up to, consider to be mentors to some extent. Um, and yeah, I mean, like, I'm sure you guys know this, but the average person might not know this, but like the average music company is super small. Like,
Mm,
whether it be hardware or software, it's like I don't know, like how many employees does Moog have? Like 50 or fewer? And they're like one of the biggest synth brands ever. And I think, I mean, so many of these plugin companies are like either one person or like maybe five. And some of those folks might be like part-time QA or website folks or whatever.
Mm.
So it is a really interesting little community where everybody's kind of dealing with the same problems to some extent. Everybody's kind of I think there's a lot of respect for each other where there's a lot of there's just like a lot of shared background and a lot of like wow, that's really cool, like you should be proud of that going around, which is nice. And I think that might be an extension of the music community in general.
Hmm. Yeah, that's nice to hear that it's not all competition or anything like that. And you
Yeah.
do make that point. I mean, it is very true. A lot of, especially when you get a little more boutique, like sometimes it's one person, just a couple people, and you can be surprised when you reach out. You might get the person making it. Just the other day, my drummer in my band was telling me he has a microphone from Warm Audio, and I love their stuff. I'm running through some of it right now. Um, and he was talking to the guy that had his mic on the workbench, repairing it. So he wasn't going through someone else or some like long chain that you might expect from large companies where that's just not practical. But yeah, he was talking to the actual person
Yeah.
handling the mic, which is pretty cool and really took care of him. So there's a certain kind of, I guess, love that goes into that when it's that
Yeah, Aqeel is
intimate.
a real champion at that stuff. We dropped an update today. Aqeel got like
I
a
got the email.
technical issue email from one guy, spent the afternoon figuring it out, fixing it, and then updated and dropped a new update to fix that one particular issue just from the one email. So that's like
Hmm.
quick turnaround. And also I would imagine, hopefully, I don't know, maybe that guy was just disgruntled, but hopefully he appreciated that.
Yeah, definitely. I think the vast majority of users do also seem to understand what I was just describing. Like, this is a one-man band to some extent. I mean, obviously not Outgrowth, it's the two of us, but in general, it's like they understand that there is a human being behind this. And, that's kind of maybe part of the reason that I just kind of made my name the name of the plugin brand to some extent.
Hmm. It
But
communicates that.
yeah. And I mean, I think I always wanted people to know, like, hey, like, you're not talking to anyone else. You're not talking to like an AI client or some customer service person. Like, it's just me. And I'm trying my best, you know?
Yeah. Well, I would imagine maybe who knows on this individual case, right? But I would imagine in general that gets around. I've felt that myself too. I've had people email me and be surprised that I write them back or something like that. Like, well, there's no one else to write you back, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I
we
think it's
gotta
Sorry,
big
we
visit
got a
them.
little interruption
Yeah.
here.
Oh man, adorable.
Hi.
Hey, welcome to the Music
Yes.
Production Podcast, buddy.
the
You want to
youngest
say
member
hi?
ever.
This
No.
is a
No.
record.
Okay. You don't have to say hi.
We're a little boring.
Yeah, not as fun. What is this? Oh, you got a cookie?
Yeah.
Wow. You got is that Play-Doh in there?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Bubbles on now.
And bubbles?
Wow.
Let's go look at it.
Okay. Go have fun.
So I could see
It's
you
really,
got a lot going on, especially, right? That's a whole dimension.
yeah. Yeah, 2-year-old. It is a whole thing.
How does that affect your workflow? Does I'm curious as far as getting to do your music, to work on things like this, to build sample packs.
I mean, it's like a bomb dropped off in your life. Your time is totally different. Your time isn't your own. You have much less time. It's much harder to be 100% on anything because it's just a part of your brain is always just like, how's he doing? Did he eat his lunch today? Did I send him something he'll eat? I guess he probably ate that. Hopefully he ate that. We'll see what kind of mood he's in when he gets home. It's just like there's just a part of your brain that's always kind of on that. And yeah, I don't know. Sometimes some kids sleep worse, so that's another thing. Sleep can be really hard. We've been lucky. Our little guy sleeps quite well. Um, um, but yeah, it's been a challenge. He's 2 now, and I'm still figuring out how to like figure out this new life balance. I was basically through my entire adult life from like 18 onward, I was just like working on music a ton and sort of like deriving the both enjoyment and like momentum of my everything from working and working like like working on the weekends and working at night and just kind of always grinding on things. And so to now have like a very clear limitation on that is of course a worthwhile limitation, but it's just quite an adjustment for those of us that have kind of been workaholics and chosen a passion to focus on. It ain't easy, but I'm getting better at it.
Do you find it helps you discipline your time any more maybe than in the past?
I wish I could say yes to that. I've thought so many times, like, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna be smarter about my time, and that's gonna make up for it. And it's not actually what's happening. It's
Yeah.
I'm still myself. I'm a slightly more tired, slightly more distracted version of myself, but I'm not like somehow. Um, I mean, I will say like on the creative front, I don't know if it's like I wouldn't say I'm more efficient, but maybe um, my perspective is just wider. Like music is not life the way it was pre-child. Like there is a thing more important.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think in a way that can be healthy for the music itself to sort of like it's like a little easier to have a 3,000 foot view of what you're making when a part of it doesn't define you quite as much. Um, so that part is potentially can be potentially helpful, I think. But yeah, it's a struggle.
Yeah, because I'm asking because again, when Akil, you were asking for the advice, how to music, how to do this in your life. Um, yeah, like how do you? What advice did you give? I guess this is pre-fatherhood advice, right? If we're going back that far,
Oh yeah, that's an interesting question. That would have been like January 2023, so
what do you
almost
tell a
But
fatherhood.
person when they ask you, how do I do music?
and Akil, I see what you're asking. Yeah, I mean, it was kind of, I don't feel like it was a complex like thinking process at all or anything. I was just like, Akil, you know how to do this thing already that like somebody like me, I'm kind of a technological Luddite, despite the fact that I make music with technology. I'm using kind of the older stuff. And part of the reason for that is like, I'm a older millennial. I didn't have a computer in the home growing up until I was like 17 or 18. Like, just the basics of like reading on a screen is just my brain is not a natural at that the way most people are these days. And I know nothing about coding, so it's like, and I've been in this world long enough to see how much people can build with those tools, and knowing that I'm not ever going to have those tools is like a little bit of like, oh, I see my limitation. So with Akil, I was like, oh, you're already doing this kind of music I'm doing, but you also have that skill. That's such a gift. Like just if that's something you could find inspiration and enjoyment in, like worth considering.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think you should give yourself more credit because I think at the time you were doing Pine, the video game, so you're doing a lot of what was it, Fmod stuff?
Fmod
Uh,
stuff, but for what it's worth, I had to kind of like back
Stretch.
out of my
Oh.
Fmod stuff. It's a little bit just the project itself. Shout out
Yeah.
Najati, my friend, who was the programmer on that kind of. coded himself into a bit of a spiral in Unity that made my job a little harder.
Mhm.
So I didn't end up, but yeah, it's not to say I can't learn a piece of software or whatever, but writing whatever you said, Outgrowth ended up being like 40,000 lines of code or whatever. Like
Mhm.
I have a hard time imagining my brain and abilities would get there, but who
Honestly,
knows?
same. But yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that's interesting. And well, to bring up your album too, Tyler, I'm guessing just based on it came out early September. Um, were you working on that more recently?
No, actually, that was so I started working on that just before my son was born 2 years ago and worked on it for about a year. Um, and a lot of it was kind of inspired by that. And also, my mother passed away right after my son was born, 2 months after he was born.
Mm,
So my whole life was kind of like just blown up.
yeah, I'm sorry.
And
Yeah.
so working on that music was like kind of like a cathartic process. And there's also something about that music where like I was in such a weird place that I couldn't have really made any other kind of music. It was sort of interesting to watch what I ended up doing when like that's what my life was. But anyway, yeah, I worked on that then and had sort of like hoped that the label that I ended up releasing on would be interested in it, and luckily they were. But they had releases set for about a year, so the album had to actually sit for a year before it was released. So it was a little while ago, and yeah, it was like right at the beginning of this stuff, and I definitely like listen back and hear it that way as like me in a particular space, and it's just a particular time. And I think the next album I make is going to sound very different. At least to me, a lot of people say all my stuff sounds kind of connected, um, but for me, the process and the results are going to feel very different the next time around.
Mhm. Yeah, it's an awesome album. It's really interesting and um, unique, which is not an easy thing to find these days. And I found it, yeah, just very easy to keep going with it. It would be looping on my headphones when I was listening to it. I was last couple weekends just had it going quite a lot. How much this is one of those albums, I guess, where when I'm thinking about the creation of it, it sounds like either you could have been so micro and doing every little thing, or maybe just a little more haphazard, letting things happen. Um, I guess I'm curious about like the process a little, though. Like, how do you make those sounds? Like,
Yeah, a little
because
bit
I'm
of
not hearing it.
both.
Yeah, I'm not hearing like, oh, there's obviously like this is a synthesizer sometimes, or that's a guitar. That's a drum beat. I get it. Yeah, a lot of it's very, yeah, just like out of this world, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of both. I like to kind of separate the things. I like to have time I spend that is purely sound design, where I'm building samples or building instruments, which I used a lot of that stuff on this record, especially a series of like MIDI sampler instruments I made in live, um, and then like percussion samples. I did a bunch of percussion programming on the Digitact on that record. And so there was a lot of like just pure sound design, not composition at
Mm,
one point, kind of earlier before I even knew it was becoming a record. And then the actual writing of the record is sort of like not getting too hamstrung with like, setting a filter in the exact perfect position or like getting the compressor exactly right, but just kind of splashing around with these sounds I liked and throwing ideas on the dig attack, then just kind of like improvising chords and just like laying it down, then coming back to it 3 days later and being like, oh, maybe I'll try this wacky sample on top of it. And that didn't work, but the next one did. And coming back a few days later and kind of cutting a few things out, adding a few things. So the actual creative process was a little more like abstract and type B than previous stuff I've done. This this is since I have like a background in like classical and jazz and stuff, and a lot of like theoretical musical thinking, most of my music up to this point, the theoretical underpinnings, the chords, the melodies, scales, whatever, was all pretty clear to me, and I was thinking about it throughout the process. And with this record, I kind of moved on from that stuff really fast. I would throw down some chords, throw down some melodies, and like to this day, I kind of have no idea what the chords and melodies are on the record because I did it 2 years ago and didn't have to think about it after that because then it just went purely into like sound design and editing and building a narrative. Um, so in that way, it was very loose.
Hmm. I could hear that. Yeah. Because it does sound. It's like the sounds, the loops, all of that is very complicated. There's a lot like to make that I could see would take some time, but it feels put together in a playful way as well. So I think that's really what I'm enjoying about it is that it has this kind of almost, I don't know if improvise is the word, but playful feeling. Yet at the same time, when you listen to it, it's like, wow, listen to all this crazy stuff going on. Like you could almost
Mm.
imagine somebody sitting there with like every single little tiny clip moving them around. So it's it's a cool balance. It's very interesting. And I like that workflow a lot myself. I love to make my sounds and create things, and then when it's time to throw them together, to almost go at hyper speed so
Mm.
that
Hmm.
I don't let the critic in as much, and I do really bold things, run them through heavy effects, or and don't look back. And I love that because then I feel like I get more of a longevity even for myself when I listen to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so good to like find ways when you sit down to be creative to like put nothing in between you and what sounds fun to you and inspiring.
Mm.
So yeah, being able to just be like, okay, bam, I'm going to toss this on there, and I'm not going to worry about whether it's perfectly on four or whatever. I'm just going to put it on there, and then maybe I'll try a couple of these pads, and boom, boom. I don't know what that note was, but whatever. Here, try it, and then maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Um, and then just like yeah, maybe having some pedals around, be like, oh, okay, I can just route this in, boom, out, record a couple improv, like pedal improv, see if that gets me somewhere, and then
Mm.
yeah. And for me, like a big part of my process is that once I've like spent some time with a piece of music, my objective brain is just gone. Like I can't hear it the way that the first time listener is going to hear it anymore. So like, um, and maybe I have a short attention span too, but I'll work on a track for like 45 minutes and just like bounce out like just a stereo bounce of whatever I just did. Um, and then just, go away and come back to it the next day or whatever, and not open up the live session first, because looking at a session, my brain immediately goes in session mode and it's not just listening. I'll just like hit the space bar on that bounce I did the previous day and try to just listen as someone who's not in the session. And that really helps me to like kind of be honest about what's working and what isn't and what I want to do next.
Right, right. Yeah, that's the curse of the music producer, right? You never get to hear your music for the first time. You almost
Yeah.
have to come up with tricks to get around that. That I think that's a good one. Yeah, not opening the session because you're right. You're okay. Now I'm what I know. You see the parts coming even, so you lose the element of surprise as the one making it. Unfortunately.
Sorry. I got a kid. You just stamped my hand while you were talking. Thank you. Do you want to show them your stamp? Can you show them? You got to lift it a little bit higher. There it is. Yeah, very
Ooh, purple.
nice. Very nice. Oh, you've done a few times. You got a purple wrist.
Be covered with it, I'm sure. It's the
Yes.
freedom of a
Looking
kid.
good. Oh, let's not do it on my computer, please. Thank you.
On this side.
No, we can't do it on that. Do you want to go show your mama? Sorry. Delays.
That's like, no, that's okay. It is fun to see it, to see a child. I find they can be so inspiring creatively. That who cares if I have stamps all over my body, you know? Like, who cares? Like, I'm playing, I'm having fun. And sometimes we get so proper, and especially I think when, like Aqeel, when you asked, how do I do music? Now you're getting serious about it. You know, that's not, it's work now. And
Yeah.
it's hard to do both, to play and work at the same time.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
definitely true. And I think you're right. I think there's a reason that 90% of stories are about the loss of childhood innocence.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think it's definitely important to try to balance that and make sure you're still having fun with things, because it's like I think about the phenomenon of like the songwriter who has run out of things to write songs about. You know, like how many famous singers are now just singing about being famous at this point. And I think you never kind of want to go down that path. You want to make sure that you're kind of still living life and still remembering what you're doing this for, and kind of making sure there's still some kind of external input.
Mm. Yeah, watching young kids play around with creativity, art, music, you know. It's one of I'm high school English teacher by day, and it's one of the things I love about my job is that they keep you young, they keep you playful a little bit. I mean, maybe the younger ones more than the older, but it is something I usually end my year saying, like, guys, like, you know, everyone's gonna be telling you to grow up, and I'm gonna tell you not to. You know, hold on to that, because it's gonna slip away if you don't, and it just seems to benefit so many other things, even work, even careers, to have a willingness to fail, to make mistakes or be silly, can often lead you down interesting paths.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
one of the things I really loved about living in New York is like it it was like humbling, I think, in a healthy way, where it's like, you know, I would walk out my front door and see like 100 people before I got to the subway. And it's like, how can you take yourself so seriously when you're like a footnote in 100 people's lives that they don't even probably remember that they just walked past you? Like, I think that was, at least for me, you know, certainly like a healthy experience, I think, to have had at like 21.
Right.
And
Yeah,
artistically, New York has that aspect too, where you're like, you'll go play a triple bill or something where it's like two people you've never heard of at some tiny little venue, and you get there and one of the acts is utterly mind blowing. It's like, how are you? How did I not know about you? You're just doing this, and nobody's writing about you, and nobody's like promoting your records, and you just exist, and you're this good. Like,
yeah.
and there's a lot of that here.
Yeah, it is pretty mysterious what rises up and gets caught on to, because you're right. You can sometimes go see things and just be like, stuff that makes you wonder what you're doing. What am I doing?
Sure.
When I'm participating in this conversation, when there's people like that. You know?
Yeah, I mean, but it also goes the other way too, because I think it's, you know, I think any kind of like division you have is kind of entirely in your own mind. And it is, I mean, you know, I've been fortunate in this experience of doing like, you know, the Aqeel Aadam Sound stuff, like just some of the people who like randomly wander into your inbox. It's like, oh my God, like that's so cool that you are even like aware of this. So I do think that, you know, maybe they're feeling the same way about you.
Well, I guess when you know, New York is a good place to see this, because it's just a crowd of people, right? It's not individuals. It's just a swarm of people coming down the street before you get on the subway or whatever. But anytime you look closely at something, people are a good example. You realize they are individuals. They have their their own life. All those people that are little extras in your journey to the subway have a whole complex thing going on, and um, a lot of things are like that. The humanity comes out, and that's what I think it gets really interesting. And I think more and more these days, I'm really appreciating that. It's kind of my current conclusion about AI is that it's the thing I love about it is it's really making me appreciate when I'm seeing something real and authentic from people that, oh, wow, this is special, you know, because there's so much now that even stuff that is authentic and real can be hyper produced and polished. And it is really nice sometimes to just see things for what they are. And
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking a lot about how AI, and this is not a good or bad. I mean, I think generally AI is going to bring a lot of bad things, but it's going to force us into sort of a new context where humanity, like pure, unvarnished humanity, is like more valued and maybe more clearly defined, and is sort of like um, what will make your art or your music um, continue to have value for people. Um, and so that's, I don't know, that's going to be interesting. I think it's also going to be really shitty, but at least there's going to be something like that to think about.
yeah, that could be a nice byproduct, though, where
Hmm.
we get to value that aspect of things. I mean, even if you think of jobs people have that are potentially in danger, it maybe it's more the task that's in danger, you know, but if you're bringing something else to it besides whatever that task is that the computer can do. I don't know if you're a doctor and like, yes, it can read the report better than you and see the scan better than you, but your bedside manner, your ability to tell a person what they're going through and comfort them and offer them, like, I mean, how valuable is that? You know, I think many of us can relate to that experience of seeing a doctor that treats you like just the next thing because they're running off to the next thing compared to the one that sits with you and sees you as a human. And maybe
Yeah.
those, like you said, will be the things we really come to appreciate.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And I feel like there's this experience that's kind of tangential to AI and maybe more related to digital life right now, but there's like kind of like a constant influx of things that are like I want to call them like good enough. Like if you scroll on Instagram, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool, that's kind of neat, whatever, but I'm not sitting here and engaging with this for more than 10 seconds or whatever. But I think it's made that experience so much more valuable when you actually do stumble across something. And, you know, like you were saying, like listening to an album like 7 times in one day, as opposed to just kind of being like, oh, that's cool. And then you kind of keep going with your life. I think that
Yeah.
experience has become so much more valuable and so much more special when you actually get it. And I think it's kind of related to the AI question because, I mean, you could ask AI to summarize an email or whatever, and it could get 70% of the way there. But you know, you're going to miss the inflection or the actual, you know, human behind this thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even maybe it's even an outgrowth of just industrial revolution. I mean, because you can go to like the grocery store, right? And you can just be another person on the line, never even speak to the person that you're
Mhm.
dealing with. But then once in a while, you have those little interactions, and you know, those feel good. I wasn't just another robot that came through here in an endless string of robotic interactions.
Yeah, absolutely.
It keeps coming up. I sometimes I say it, those two letters, and I'm like, uh-oh, we're going here again. But it is a lot.
It's hard to avoid right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Also, we should mention too that Outgrowth went on iOS today. Actually, was
Hmm.
the launch. At least I got the email today
Yeah.
about that. So,
Yeah.
congrats on that, guys. That's got to be a whole other
Thank you.
universe, right?
Yeah, that was definitely the number one question we got after the launch. It's like, when is iOS? When is iOS? When is iOS? So it feels good to get that out there. Obviously, it kind of has catalyzed an entire new avalanche of other requests. But I think that's a good thing. It means people are seeing the potential in something as opposed to writing it off, which is always a good thing. It's for anyone listening, like if you ever have a suggestion, I think we're all ears. We'd rather hear the suggestion than kind of wonder why someone wasn't satisfied with something. So, yeah, I think it's been
especially now because we're going to keep cooking on Outgrowth for a while. Like like it's released, but we're kind of still building it and working on the what new additions we're going to make, and have some ones we're excited about planned for probably early 2026 and then throughout. So now is a good time if people have things. We're very eager to hear them.
Yeah.
Do you find you get interesting maybe applications that you haven't thought of, or just even ideas on what it could possibly do from people as they start using it? Because once you release something, then it kind of it almost becomes everybody's in some way. And I'm sure, Aqeel, a lot of your devices have become pretty important to a lot of people's workflows, just like sample packs you make, Tyler, that become part of how people make their art. Any interesting or surprising things come up for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say off the top of my head. I think there's been definitely a lot of suggestions that we hadn't thought of, but I don't know if it's good or bad sign, but a lot of the things that have been suggested were kind of like, oh yeah, that's on our radar, but we're not sure if it's going to be a priority, and now we're like, oh yeah, we should definitely address that. So it's interesting because this has been my most robust product at launch. So I think there's a little less kind of wiggle room for people to see different things in it. But I also think that means that we've done a good job of covering a wide breadth of things that it can do. I do feel like, just having two brains working on this has meant that we kind of got a lot of that experience throughout the development process. I think some of my other devices I kind of just tossed out there into the world, and then it kind of became more of a collaboration. But in this case, I think just the fact that we could kick ideas back and forth like all the time, has kind of yielded that experience a little bit already. And yeah, that's not to say we're not getting great suggestions and great feedback, but I think a lot of it is kind of something we're already cognizant of to some extent, which I think is a good sign because we've already got it kind of,
So, okay, yeah, the thing that your question made me think of, and Aqeel, maybe you'll remember who the creator is because I'm forgetting what his name is, but you sent Outgrowth to a YouTuber guy before it was released, and he dropped the video like the day it came out or something. And you remember he did that incredible thing with Radiate, where he had a vocal sample with two different pitches, and he was scrubbing through the vocal sample, and the sine waves were kind of like, it was just a much more interesting usage of that engine than I think either of us had come to at that point. And it kind of, for me, kind of crystallized like, oh, there's some stuff here that this can do that I didn't even realize yet. And it was really beautiful. So that's kind of like, in some ways, the most inspiring part of this for me is seeing what people come back with that we didn't even think of, and kind of learning how to build for and with the device from what other people come up with, which I think, I don't know, is especially fun because I've been on the opposite side of that dynamic many times, sort of like testing gear for companies before they come out or right after they come out, people getting to hear ways that I've used things. So it's fun to now see that from the opposite perspective.
Yeah, different imaginations attack it, and yeah, whatever comes up. That's a cool feedback loop, positive reinforcement, and also just like, oh, we could do that. Maybe, I'm sure that sparks new ideas. I mean, it's just like any collaboration, I guess, right? Where
Yeah.
that's half the fun is somebody surprises you and then you're doing something you never would have done with that.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, a lot of the fun for me is like it kind of satisfies the artist and the engineering brain because, if you receive like three different suggestions and they all seem kind of different on the surface, but then you kind of, chew on it for a while and you're like, oh, there's one way that everybody could be happy with this. I think that's always like such a really fun experience for me that I enjoy personally. So I think, it's a bit of like the Steve Jobs thing where it's like people don't really know what they want. And I think it's always fun to kind of sit back a little bit and kind of let the suggestions roll in, but then kind of figuring out how to accomplish that within the framework that's already there. We can't do exactly everything that every single person suggests, but I think it's a really fun exercise to kind of figure out what's going to get the most people from point A to point B, hopefully.
And it's a real balancing act too. Like we tried to keep it simple and we made some like sort of clear, important choices at the beginning about what we were and were not going to like have this plugin be able to do. And of course, right as when it came out, we got a bunch of requests for exactly those things we decided it wasn't going to do. And so we're like, okay, sort of re-questioning, like, was that choice to preserve the simplicity and clarity of the device, like, are we still like holding strong with that, or are we questioning it now? For the most part, we're holding strong, but there have been some requests that are like, oh yeah, we do need to loosen up some things there or there. But it's like keeping the device clear and concise enough to be inspiring and not feel like we're trying to build a DAW within a VST within your DAW. It's just a challenge that's been fun, but sort of all very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because then things get bloated and then it's confusing and it's hard and then it's not as fun to work with. There's a lot of interesting choices that need to be made. And I wonder, for like big software company, you take a program like Ableton Live now that has come so far, and now there's so much you can do with it. And they're going to, I'm sure, continue to add features. And there's got to be a really challenging question for developers of any software, really. Like, all right, where do we stop this, or at what cost? And we don't want to break the formula, the workflows that people have already. Sometimes you get that even in like software for typing a document, and then suddenly like Notepad is just great because it's nothing. I just want to type. And like, I don't need to create tables and charts and all of that. But yeah, I could see that must be quite the challenge. You want to just keep building and building.
Yeah, and I think, it's funny you bring up the Ableton with all the features, because I think there's a famous thing that Apple does, which is like, there's some app on the phone that gets popular and Apple's just kind of like, okay, we're going to take that. Or like Instagram does that too, with like stories and then reels and then all these other things that they kind of subsumed over time. So, it is a worry to some extent, but, I think I do feel like there's this kind of goal that at least I have in the back of my mind where like you think of these devices that are like 20 years old or 10 years old or whatever, and you're like, man, like that is not the easiest way to do something, and there are easier ways now, but people swear by it. Like, maybe like an MPC, you could totally chop things up in Ableton, probably way easier, but people just love the MPC and they still use it every day. And I feel like, having the privilege to like design something like that is kind of the ultimate goal. It's like something that stands the test of time, and maybe something does become easier, or there is, some learning curve that you have to get over, but just something that kind of has like a reason to continue existing, I think is always the goal.
Mm.
And it's sort of, I think it takes amazing artists to sort of like find the interesting limitations of those older devices and like find where things break down, things break down and the edges get interesting and unique, and that's what kind of gives them their value. So it's the sort of roughness that the process on an MPC forces upon your music that is like what's valued now, but when the makers were like building it, they probably wish they could have not had that stuff. They just didn't have the
Yeah.
technology to do it.
Yeah.
It's the same way with like Tascams, all the 4 tracks now, like what's most interesting about those is like all the sounds you can get out of them that back when they were actually coming out, people wanted to fully eradicate. They wish they were less noisy, and now we love them for the noise. So
Yeah.
it's it sort of like takes an artist to find the interesting parts of a device, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen videos on your YouTube where you've got cassette tape players and stuff. And I mean, yeah, I used to record on those as a kid and I hated it. I mean, I loved that I could record on it, but everything about it sucked, But now sample something onto that and put it in the computer and oh man, it's like rich. It's got life and character and there's a bit of nostalgia. Everything comes packaged in with that. And I'm often trying to recreate or build in the things I wished I could get over back in those days, like into my projects, because there's something, I don't know, endearing about it. Or
Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
wonder
Yeah.
if it's like a grass is greener situation and we're just gonna snap back the other way at some point.
probably a little bit, right? We kind of because we got with computers, we got so clean and digital and crisp, and then now everything sounds dirty and lo-fi, and maybe we'll get tired of that and appreciate the fact that we can do stuff so with such high fidelity, and who knows? Probably
Yeah,
depends
I
on the
think it's
project even.
context thing. Like everything in music is like a dance of contrasts from one thing to the next. And right now, musicians have the most access that we've ever had to the extremes of like very analog, degraded things and purely pristine perfection. And it's like a lot of the most interesting music that uses those things uses them together and sort of emphasizes the contrast between them.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
It's a great time to be doing it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
definitely hard to
I appreciate
complain.
your energy. It's hard to feel that way sometimes, but I enjoy hearing you express that. I feel that way sometimes, occasionally.
Well, there are times when I'm on my back on the floor figuring out where the wires are going and trying to understand why my computer won't load and, all that kind of stuff. That's frustrating.
Yeah,
Why is this noise happening in my interface or something? But, I mean, on the whole, we got it better than ever, I think, because you still can take the MPC out, if you got one,
that's true.
and you can still put yourself in 1985 with a little micro cassette or something. So yeah, it's for me, the trouble is just deciding now. Really just making the decision like, okay, I'm going to do it this way instead of leaving all those options open and just not knowing where to go.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
the
think just as like
limitations are so important.
as a maybe final plug, that was kind of one of the goals for us is kind of like helping, injecting a bit of inspiration and a bit of unpredictability like back into your workflow. Because I think we all we could do exactly what we wanted to do. Like you can open up the DAW and basically do anything. But, is that fun? Do you feel like you're just executing? Like, I think we really wanted to kind of help people just like find that inspiration, because that's one of like the most human things we have, and one of the things that is both like kind of limitless but also hard to find sometimes. So I think we hope to really like help people find that and just follow that where it leads.
No, I appreciate that. And I mean, now, yeah, you don't even have to open the DAW. It's like you guys remember the Game Genie on old video games?
Was that like the thing that helped you cheat?
Yep. Yeah, infinite lives, invincibility. Yeah, you just
I do remember
prompt
this.
it. You don't have to do any of the work.
I never had
But
one,
that was
but I always
boring
wanted
real
one.
fast. Yeah, it was boring after a few minutes.
Yeah.
So keep it exciting. Well, maybe we'll wrap this one up then. Encourage people to go to check out the new plugin Outgrowth at Aqeel Aadam Sound, which I'll put links for, of course. But not just Outgrowth, too. There's plenty of other good stuff there. So,
Yeah.
thank you both for
Akeel's
taking
got
the time.
a ton of other, well, not a ton, but he's got 3 other devices that are amazing too. So don't snooze on those.
Yeah. Thank you. And, follow through to listen to Tyler's actual music as well.
Yes, I highly recommend it myself, on both counts.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So you guys have a good rest of the night. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll call it a podcast.
This guy.
Thank you for listening to the Music Production Podcast. If you want to help support the show, the best thing you can do is tell a friend, someone you think that would enjoy the show. I'd also love it if you could leave a review wherever you get your podcasts. And if you want to support my work, you can go to brianfunk.com. I've got tons of Ableton Live packs, tutorials, samples. You can check out my book, The 5-Minute Music Producer, which gives you 365 short music-making activities to help you get started, stay inspired, and finish more music. And there's also the Music Production Club, where you get my latest releases as soon as they're finished. It gives you access to a community of like-minded people who are making music and sharing ideas. You can share your music, find new collaborators, and participate in our live meetings where we set up some kind of musical challenge and then make music together and share our results at the end. That's the Music Production Club. It's a lot of fun, and you can find that and everything that I do at brianfunk.com. Thanks again for listening to the show, and have a great day.